They tried to put my $2,300,000 ranch on the block while I was laying my father to rest. I rolled in at 6 a.m. after cutting the funeral short, only to see strangers with clipboards roaming my acreage, a massive "for auction" sign jammed into my yard, and HOA President Brenda Calhoun dialing 911 to report me for trespassing on land that's been in my bloodline 3 generations. I never joined their HOA. I never ceded a single inch, but they figured I'd be gone long enough to snatch everything. They chose the worst moment and the wrong man. What would you do if your whole legacy sat on the auction block while you were 800 m away mourning? Drop a comment below, because what I did next turned their little sham sale into a full-blown reckoning. My name is Cole Hartman, and I'm a 3rd-generation cattle rancher in Colorado. The 47-acre spread I call home has been in my family since 1967, when my grandfather bought raw ground and built everything from the dirt up: the cedar fence, the barn, even the gravel lane to our front door. After my wife Lily passed from cancer 2 years ago, it's just me and my 16-year-old daughter Nora keeping the legacy running with our 30 head of cattle. 3 years back, everything shifted when developers planted the Maplewood Heights subdivision right beside my place. Within months, they formed an HOA and elected Brenda Calhoun as president, a former city planner who moved here from Denver with big notions about property values and community standards. Brenda's the sort who measures neighbors' grass with a ruler and mails violation notices for Christmas lights left up past January 2nd. The trouble started immediately. First, Brenda claimed my cedar fence intruded 18 in onto their common area. Then came odor complaints about my herd in the summer. Finally, she declared my gravel access somehow violated their precious entrance median. Every month brought a fresh demand, a fresh threat, a fresh attempt to force me under rules I never consented to. Last Tuesday, I got the call every son dreads. My father suffered a massive heart attack in Montana. I left at once, planning to stay the full week for arrangements and settling his affairs. Nora stayed with her best friend's family, and my neighbor Walter Briggs agreed to check the cattle twice a day. But Thursday evening, Nora sent a message that froze my blood. "Dad, you need to come home now. Something's going on at the ranch." I drove through the darkness, arriving as dawn broke over the front range. The first thing I saw rolling through my gate wasn't cattle grazing like usual. It was 2 men in pricey suits shooting my fence line with pro gear. A colossal wooden sign dominated my front yard. Empty now. Maplewood Heights, Homewood Pit. H. I parked the truck and walked over, boots crunching on the gravel my grandfather laid down 50 years back. "Excuse me, gentlemen. What exactly are you doing on my land?" The taller man barely glanced up from his clipboard. "Sir, we're conducting a pre-auction assessment. This property is slated for public sale this Saturday." "This is my land," I said, keeping my tone level while anger built in my chest. "You're trespassing." That's when the shorter man made his fatal error. He smirked and said, "Sir, we have legal authorization. Please don't interfere with our work." I pulled out my phone to ring the sheriff, but before I could dial, the tall one was already making a call of his own. "We have a situation here," he said into his phone. "Subject is being confrontational." Within minutes, a white Mercedes SUV screeched up my drive, kicking a dust cloud that settled on my grandfather's fence posts. Out stepped Brenda Calhoun herself, dressed like she was heading to a boardroom instead of taking someone's ranch at daybreak. "Mr. Hartman," she said with that fake smile I'd learned to despise, "you're in violation of a court order. These gentlemen have every right to be here." "What court order?" I demanded. "This is my property, and I want them gone." Brenda's smile vanished as she lifted her phone. 911. "Yes, I need police immediately. We have a trespasser threatening our legal assessment team." 20 minutes later, Deputy Elena Ruiz pulled up in her sheriff's cruiser. I knew Elena. Her daughter is friends with Nora, and we'd sat together at more than one school event. She stepped out looking genuinely puzzled about why she'd been called to my place. Brenda launched straight into her performance. "Officer, this man is hindering a lawful property assessment. We have full authority under Colorado statute." "Ma'am," Deputy Ruiz said carefully, "can you show me your documentation?" Brenda produced a folder thick with official-looking papers. The top sheet read, "Notice of Property Forfeit," in bold, signed by something called the Maplewood Heights Community Authority. According to Brenda's stack, I owed $47,000, zero in piled-up fines and fees for assorted violations, and my fence encroachment amounted to adverse possession in reverse. I stared at the paper in disbelief. Elena, I've never seen this once in my life. I never received any official notice. Ignorance of HOA covenants isn't a defense, Mr. Hartman, Brenda said smugly. The certified mail was attempted multiple times. Refusal to accept delivery constitutes legal acknowledgement. I never refused any mail, I protested, pulling my phone to show Deputy Ruiz my deed and tax records. This ranch has been in my family for 60 years. Deputy Ruiz examined both sets of documents, her frown deepening. Ma'am, by county records, this appears to be Mr. Hartman's land legally. The HOA has statutory authority under Colorado revised statutes, Brenda insisted. Mr. Hartman's fence encroachment triggered our abandonment clause. He owes $47,000 in accumulated fines. The numbers hit like a physical blow. $47,000 for what? A fence that stood before Brenda was born. Deputy Ruiz looked as baffled as I felt. This is plainly a civil issue. I can't arrest anyone without a warrant. And I'm not seeing any criminal activity. Then remove him from HOA property, Brenda demanded, pointing to the disputed fence. Ma'am, I'm standing on my own land, I said firmly. Deputy Ruiz shook her head. Without a court order or clear evidence of trespass, I'm not removing anyone. Both sides need to handle this through the courts. The auction is Saturday, Brenda snapped. This delay is costing us thousands in administrative fees. That's when I noticed something that made my blood boil hotter. The auction sign wasn't just on my property. It sat a full 2 feet inside my fence line, planted in soil my family had worked for decades. Brenda, that sign is on my land. Pull it now, or I will touch that sign and I'll have you arrested for vandalism, she threatened. I tried calling my lawyer, Nathan Cole, but hit his voicemail saying he was out until Wednesday. 2 other attorneys I reached had no weekend openings. The timing was perfect, suspiciously perfect. Timing is everything, Mr. Hartman, Brenda said with that same smirk. While we argued, the assessors kept shooting my fence line with their equipment. I retrieved my grandfather's original 1967 survey, yellowed with age but still binding. According to it, my fence was actually 3 feet inside my line, nowhere near encroaching. This survey is outdated, the lead assessor said dismissively. We have an updated 2022 survey showing clear encroachment. Updated by who? I demanded. I never authorized any survey of my acreage. The HOA commissioned a professional survey to resolve the boundary issue, Brenda said smoothly. That's when my neighbor Walter Briggs pulled up in his old Ford, dust trailing behind like a banner of war. Walter was 73 and had surveyed land for the county before retiring. If anyone knew where my fence belonged, it was Walter. Cole, I tried calling you, Walter said, climbing down with the stiffness of a man who'd worked with his hands all his life. These folks were here yesterday too, measuring and snapping pictures. Sir, this is private HOA business, Brenda said coldly. Walter laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Lady, I've been here 40 years. That fence hasn't shifted an inch since Cole's grandfather said it. Neighbors had started drifting out from the subdivision, drawn by the ruckus. Some looked behind Brenda. Others looked uneasy with the whole mess. Mrs. Patterson, whose dog I'd pulled from my cattle pond twice, avoided eye contact. 2 neighbors I didn't recognize began filming on their phones. Please document everything, Brenda told them. We need evidence of his obstruction. That's when Deputy Ruiz offered the first good news I'd heard all morning. Ma'am, under Colorado law, adverse possession needs 18 years of continuous occupation. If this fence has stood for 58 years, well before your subdivision existed, then Mr. Hartman's original deed would take precedence over any newer HOA covenants. The legal idea was simple. Prior existing use supersedes later covenant limits. My grandfather's fence carried legal priority over Brenda's power trip, but Brenda wasn't backing down. We'll see what the emergency board meeting decides this afternoon. At 2 o'clock sharp, Brenda called an emergency HOA board meeting at her house. Even though I was the property owner most affected by their moves, I wasn't invited. I showed up anyway. This is a private meeting, Brenda said when I knocked on her door. You're not an HOA member. I'm the landowner you're trying to take from, I replied. I have a right to defend myself. The board had 5 people: Brenda as president, Dr. Harold Keaton as vice president, Tessa Lowell as secretary, Alan Zhou as treasurer, and Denise Harper as member at large. What I later learned was that Tessa worked for Brenda's real estate company, and Dr. Keaton had put $50,000 into Brenda's business. The fix was in from minute one. I laid out my evidence methodically. The original 1967 deed with survey, continuous tax receipts, and my grandfather's handwritten notes documenting the fence install. These are old documents, Brenda waved off. Current law applies. According to whose survey? I demanded. I never agreed to any survey of my land. Brenda produced her professional survey dated March 2022, signed by someone named Prakash Menon from Mountain West Land Services. I'd never heard of either the firm or the surveyor. I want to contact this surveyor directly, I said. That's not necessary. The survey is certified, Brenda replied quickly. Dr. Keaton read from the HOA covenant. Any encroachment onto common area constitutes abandonment of property rights. By their reading, I had constructively abandoned the disputed strip, which then reverted to HOA authority. Tessa produced 2021 minutes, claiming I'd been properly noticed and failed to respond. I had never received any notices about meetings concerning my land. Maybe we should delay until legal counsel reviews all this, suggested Alan Zhou, the treasurer, looking more uneasy by the minute. I've already contacted Secure Shield Security for the auction, Brenda announced. Given Mr. Hartman's hostile behavior, we need professional security. You're hiring security to help you take my land, I asked. Denise Harper, the only one who seemed to have a conscience, spoke up. Brenda, maybe we should rethink this whole. We're proceeding as planned, Brenda cut her off. That's when I learned about Colorado Revised Statute 3833.3116. HOAs can't claim ownership by covenant violations alone. Actual abandonment requires clear intent and physical vacation of property. I had continuously occupied, maintained, and paid taxes on every inch for decades. The smoking gun came when I demanded to see all correspondence they claimed to have sent me. Brenda produced emails sent to chartman.ranch@gmail.com, but my real email was cole.r.hartman.ranch@gmail.com. They had the wrong address. Typographical errors don't void proper notice, Brenda argued. You never verified my contact info, I pointed out. How is that proper notice? Walter, who'd followed me to the meeting, confirmed he'd never seen any surveyors on my land. I check Cole's place daily. I'd have noticed strangers with measuring rigs. Are you a licensed surveyor? Dr. Keaton asked. Retired county surveyor, still licensed, Walter replied. And that fence is exactly where it's always been. When the vote came, it was pre-written. Brenda, Dr. Keaton, and Tessa voted yes to proceed with the auction. Alan abstained and Denise voted no. The motion passed 311. You're about to make a serious legal error, I warned them. We'll see about that, Brenda replied. Sunday morning brought an even bigger jolt. Brenda was hosting a pre-auction walkthrough of my place. 3 prospective buyers arrived to tour the ranch I'd inherited from my grandfather, led by Brenda herself, pointing out development potential. I sat on my front porch with my morning coffee, watching strangers wander my land like they already owned it. Each time a potential buyer came near the house, I stood and introduced myself politely. Hi, I'm Cole Hartman. I own this ranch. Are you interested in purchasing stolen property? The first buyer, a Denver developer in a pricey suit, left right after speaking with me. The second, a young couple, looked torn between Brenda's pitch and my warnings. The third was a real estate investor who started pressing Brenda with detailed questions about title insurance. Ma'am, I'll need to see clear title before I even consider bidding, the investor said. Brenda struggled to handle his technical questions, finally offering, all legal documentation will be available at the auction. My neighbor across the road, Evan Salazar, had been filming everything from his bedroom window. Evan was 23 and ran a YouTube channel called Rural Real Talk with 47,000 subscribers. Cole, this is insane, Evan said, jogging over with his camera. I'm putting this online. I was hesitant at first, but after seeing Brenda's auction flyers posted around the subdivision, I agreed to let Evan document what was going on. That Sunday night, Evan went live on YouTube with the title, Insane, HOA Trying to Steal Neighbor's Ranch. The live stream drew 847 viewers in the first hour, comments pouring in nationwide backing my fight. By Monday evening, local reporter Dana Park from Channel 9 called asking for interviews. When she contacted Brenda for comment, Brenda first agreed, then backed out. Dr. Keaton refused to speak to reporters at all. Channel 9 ran the story Monday night. HOA ranch seizure sparks legal questions. Meanwhile, my daughter Nora had been doing homework of her own. She found that Colorado requires specific permits for property auctions, and no permit had been filed by Maplewood Heights HOA. "Dad, they don't have legal authority to run an auction," Nora told me. I phoned the county clerk's office Tuesday morning and confirmed Nora's findings. The clerk explained that Colorado law requires a 30-day advance permit for property auctions, and the permit must include proof of ownership or legal authority. "Sir, they cannot legally hold an auction without proper permits," the clerk confirmed. But Brenda doubled down on her plan. She hired Iron Guard security for auction day, 2.2 armed guards, a patrol car, and traffic barriers. When I confronted the security supervisor, he looked uneasy. "Sir, we're only here to keep order," he said. "What if I told you this land isn't legally theirs to sell?" I asked. The supervisor promised to review their contract with the HOA. All property auctions in Colorado require state-issued permits under revised statute December 14, 401. The permits must include proof of legal ownership or a court order. Unlicensed property auctions constitute fraudulent business practices. Takeaway: always verify auction permits before bidding on any property. The neighborhood was fracturing into camps. The Nextdoor app exploded with arguments between pro-Cole and pro-Brenda residents. Several neighbors stepped up with their own stories of HOA harassment under Brenda's leadership. Mrs. Ellison finally spoke out. "Brenda tried to fine me $2,000 for planting roses in my front yard. I contacted the Colorado Bar Association for an emergency referral and got the name of Maya Chen, a property rights attorney who specialized in cases just like this. This sounds like actionable fraud," Maya told me over the phone. "I can meet you Wednesday morning." Tuesday night, Brenda sent me a certified letter demanding I vacate the property by Friday, claiming ongoing trespass violated a restraining order I'd never heard of. When I called Maya Chen's office, her assistant confirmed that no restraining order had been filed in my name. "Mr. Hartman, someone is lying to you about court orders," Maya said. Wednesday morning's meeting with attorney Maya Chen changed everything. Maya was sharp, mid-40s, and specialized in property rights. She'd handled enough HOA trickery to recognize it instantly. "Cole, bring me every document you've gotten from this HOA," she said, spreading papers across her conference table like a detective on a case. As Maya studied the stack, her expression hardened. Finally, she looked up with a mix of anger and excitement. "Cole, I don't think this HOA has any legal control over your property at all." She pulled out the original subdivision plat from 2019, which clearly showed HOA boundaries that excluded my ranch. The developer agreement specifically said, "Pre-existing properties retain full autonomy. Your land was deliberately kept outside HOA authority," Maya explained. "They have zero jurisdiction." A smoking gun came when Maya discovered Brenda had filed an amended covenant extension in 2021, claiming to stretch HOA control over adjoining parcels. But the extension had never been approved by the County Planning Commission and was never signed by affected owners. "Cole, this is a fraudulent document. Brenda forged your consent." I remembered my grandfather telling stories about bargaining with the original developer back in 2018. He was adamant about keeping the ranch free from HOA interference. I found his handwritten notes tucked inside our family Bible, detailed records of his meeting with the developer, who promised the ranch would never fall under HOA rules. Maya made calls and dug up even more damning proof. The original developer had emailed the county planner stating Hartman Ranch property must remain exempt from all HOA authority. The county's planning approval specifically excluded my ranch. "Cole, you have ironclad legal protection," Maya said. "This HOA never had the right to govern your land." But the fraud went deeper. Maya contacted the surveyor whose name appeared on Brenda's boundary survey, Prakash Menon, of Mountain West Land Services. "I never surveyed any property for Maplewood Heights HOA," Menon told Maya over speakerphone. "That signature is forged." Menon was livid. This is identity theft. I'm filing charges immediately. Maya's probe into Brenda's business revealed the financial motive. Brenda's real estate company held an exclusive listing agreement for my ranch, which would net her a $140,000 commission on a forced sale. Dr. Keaton's wife also worked for Brenda's company. This is a criminal conspiracy for profit, Maya concluded. Within hours, she had filed an emergency injunction to halt Saturday's auction and requested a criminal fraud investigation. She also filed complaints with the district attorney and state real estate board. We're not just stopping the auction, Cole. We're ending their whole scheme. Thursday morning, my kitchen turned into a war room. Maya spread legal files across my dining table while Walter Briggs, Evan Salazar, and surveyor Prakash Menon gathered around like generals planning strategy. We have 48 hours to build an airtight case, Maya announced, pointing to a timeline on my whiteboard. The evidence was overwhelming. My original 1967 deed, the 2018 developer agreement excluding my ranch, county approvals showing exemption, the forged survey with stolen signature, and Brenda's real estate listing showing her motive. This is the strongest property rights case I've ever seen, Maya said. We lined up expert witnesses. Walter, the retired county surveyor who could testify about boundaries. Menon, whose signature was stolen. Retired property lawyer Robert Sims, who knew HOA law. County clerk Lisa Martinez, who could confirm missing auction permits. And even James Lowell, the original subdivision developer and ex-husband of Tessa Lowell. Maya discovered Brenda had never filed a proper lien on my property. Colorado law requires a specific process for liens. Brenda's $47,000 fine had no foundation. You can't just claim someone owes money without due process. The case was so clear that Maya contacted the FBI's white-collar crime unit. The pattern of forged documents, identity theft, and conspiracy potentially crossed federal lines. Agent Ortiz agreed to investigate after seeing our evidence. This looks like systematic fraud, he confirmed. Evan handled media, reaching out to bigger YouTube channels. The Legal Eagle channel agreed to cover it, and local TV wanted interviews. Stay factual, stay calm. Let the evidence talk, Maya advised. Meanwhile, the community rallied. A Save Cole's Ranch group formed on Nextdoor with 127 signatures. Mrs. Ellison revealed Brenda fined her $5,000 for her garden. 3 more homeowners shared harassment stories. Nora's digging showed Brenda's real estate company was nearly bankrupt and desperate for a commission. The motive was crystal clear. Maya filed emergency restraining orders and coordinated with the sheriff to block fraud. Evan planned to live-stream the entire showdown. We turned there Friday morning through Brenda's camp into chaos when she received Maya Chen's emergency injunction filing. Brenda scrambled, calling an emergency HOA board meeting for 7 a.m. Desperate to push the auction forward. We need to hold the auction today, Brenda told her board. Brenda, we can't just change the date now, Dr. Keaton protested. People have made plans. We can do whatever we want. I'm the president, Brenda snapped. Even her own attorney, David Rowe, called with bad news. Brenda, this injunction is serious. You could face criminal charges. You said the covenant extension was legal, Brenda reminded him. I said it might be legal. This is completely different, Rowe replied, before resigning as her counsel on the spot. Brenda frantically tried to cover her tracks, ordering Tessa Lowell to delete incriminating emails from the HOA server. Brenda, deleting emails could be obstruction of justice, Tessa warned. Tessa, your job depends on this, Brenda threatened. But Tessa had already forwarded copies to her personal account. In desperation, Brenda offered County Clerk Lisa Martinez $5,000 to backdate an auction permit. Ma'am, that's attempted bribery, the clerk said, secretly recording the call on her phone. She immediately alerted the sheriff's office, which opened a criminal probe. When Iron Guard Security reviewed the legal filings Maya had submitted, they canceled their contract. Ma'am, we can't provide security for potentially illegal activities, the supervisor said. You're in breach of contract, Brenda screamed. Better than being accessories to fraud, he replied. The board was crumbling. Alan Joe resigned by email, and Denise Harper demanded an emergency vote to call off the auction. Maybe we should cancel this whole thing, Dr. Keaton said, finally wavering. We're past the point of no return, Brenda insisted. Tessa secretly recorded the entire meeting. By Friday afternoon, 3 news vans rolled into the subdivision. Channel 9, Fox 31, and Denver 7 all aired segments on the attempted seizure. Brenda refused interviews and hid indoors, while Dr. Keaton gave a disastrous one. "No comment, but we're legally justified," he told Channel 9. "Even if the surveyor says his signature was forged?" the reporter pressed. "That forged signature, doctor?" Keaton stammered, realizing he'd been left in the dark. Evan's live stream Friday night peaked at 12,000 viewers, comments pouring in, legal experts in the chat dissecting fraud implications, and donations flooding in for my legal defense. "This is bigger than just Cole's ranch now," Evan told his audience. Friday afternoon, FBI agent Ortiz came to my ranch, asking for complete documentation. "Mr. Hartman, this looks like systematic fraud," Ortiz said. "We're opening a federal investigation." Menon filed criminal complaints for identity theft, and his attorney threatened a $500,000 lawsuit against the dissolved HOA. "I've been surveying for 25 years, Menon told Evan's camera. "This is the most blatant fraud I've ever seen. Using email to commit fraud falls under federal wire fraud statutes, crossing into federal jurisdiction. Identity theft for profit carries mandatory sentences. Conspiracy can pull in all participants. Takeaway: federal fraud prosecutions have a 95% conviction rate." That evening, Maplewood Heights split into hostile factions. Pro-Cole signs appeared in 23 yards, while just 7 showed pro-Brenda support. Some posted Fire Brenda signs. A civil war was brewing regardless of the auction's fate. The sheriff's office reviewed all evidence and readied for arrests. "Sheriff, this is clear fraud," Deputy Ruiz reported. "We'll have units on site tomorrow," Sheriff Delgado confirmed. "Be ready to make arrests." In a final desperate gamble, Brenda hired private investigators to dig up dirt on my family. They found nothing. "Ma'am, this man is spotless," the lead investigator told her. Tessa handed the FBI a full email archive proving Brenda had plotted the ranch grab for 6 months. The emails revealed systematic fraud against multiple homeowners, with Dr. Keaton's financial stake tying him directly to the conspiracy. "I can't be part of this anymore," Tessa told Agent Ortiz. Friday night, my ranch house turned into a rally point. Walter Briggs, Evan, Maya, and a dozen neighbors trickled in. "Cole, we're ready for tomorrow," Maya said with steady confidence. "Let's get my land back," I replied. Saturday dawned clear and cold, frost crunching under our boots. By 6 a.m., supporters gathered. Maya with her briefcase, Walter with surveying tools, Evan with pro-camera gear, and Menon with proof of forgery. 23 subdivision neighbors joined, along with 4 news crews. Sheriff's deputies took positions around the property. "Whatever happens today, we tell the truth," I told the crowd. At 7 o'clock sharp, Brenda arrived in her white Mercedes with Dr. Keaton riding shotgun. Behind them came 2 men in tactical gear from something called Patriot Defense Services. Unlicensed muscle meant to intimidate. "Cole, those aren't real security," Maya whispered. "They're here to scare folks." By 8 o'clock, 67 people had gathered at the entrance. A mix of supporters, onlookers, bidders, and media. Evan's live stream broadcast to 18,000 viewers, helicopters circling overhead. Brenda's confidence was evaporating in the sunlight. At 8:30, Maya approached Brenda with the injunction papers. "Miss Calhoun, you are legally required to stop this auction," Maya announced loud enough for cameras. "I don't recognize your authority," Brenda snapped. "This is a court order, not a suggestion," Maya said calmly. In a desperate move sealing her fate, Brenda tore up the injunction in front of live cameras. Sheriff Delgado arrived at 9 o'clock sharp with deputies. He studied the injunction before turning to Brenda. "Ma'am, this is valid. You must comply." "Sheriff, this man is trespassing on HOA land," Brenda barked. "Ma'am, county records show this is his land," Delgado replied firmly. That's when Menon stepped forward. "Ma'am, you forged my signature on that survey," he said, his voice carrying. "I don't know what you're talking about," Brenda stammered. "I've been a licensed surveyor 25 years, Menon continued. "That's not my signature. I've never worked for your HOA." The crowd gasped. Cameras zoomed. Brenda went pale as the walls closed in. At 9:15, 2 black SUVs pulled up. FBI agent Ortiz and his partner stepped out, their presence electrifying the crowd. "Miss Calhoun, we need to speak with you about federal fraud charges," Ortiz said. "I'm busy conducting legal business," Brenda said, voice cracking. "Ma'am, this is about fraud. Step over here." Dr. Keaton began backing away, realizing just how deep he was. Tessa arrived carrying her laptop, walking straight to the agents. "I have all the emails proving this was planned," she said. She showed them Brenda's message. "Once we get Hartman's land, we're set for life." Brenda screamed, "You're breaking attorney-client privilege." "I'm not your lawyer, Brenda. I'm your victim," Tessa shot back. At 9:45, Brenda made her last stand. She climbed onto a makeshift podium and tried to start the auction without a licensed auctioneer. "This auction will proceed as scheduled," she shouted. "Ma'am, step down. This auction is stopped by court order," Sheriff Delgado commanded. "You have no authority here," Brenda shrieked. That's when Ortiz produced a federal arrest warrant. "Brenda Calhoun, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and attempted property theft. This is harassment." "I know my rights," Brenda screamed as handcuffs snapped shut. "You have the right to remain silent," Ortiz said calmly. "I suggest you use it." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause that echoed across the valley. Auction into their downfall, Maya said. Under Colorado's Consumer Protection Act, fraudulent real estate practices carry criminal penalties. Identity theft is a federal crime. Conspiracy can mean 5-year prison terms. Takeaway: white-collar fraud prosecution depends on a paper trail, and we had one. Our backup plans covered every angle. Emergency injunction to stop the auction, sheriff's arrest of Brenda for fraud, public exposure to sink Brenda's business, federal charges to end the scheme for good. "We're not just winning," Maya told me. "We're making sure no one else suffers this." That evening, I called Nora. "Honey, this might get ugly tomorrow. Are you ready?" "Dad, Grandpa didn't raise quitters. Neither did you." Walter clapped me on the shoulder. "Cole, your grandfather would be proud." "Tomorrow we restore justice," Maya said with quiet conviction. That night, Maya's subpoenas uncovered Brenda's email trail showing premeditation. One message to Dr. Keaton read, "Once we get Hartman's land, we split the profit." His reply, "Are you sure this is legal?" Brenda's response, "Legal is what we make it." Evan's latest video hit 847,000 views, with 94% positive comments from across America. Stand your ground, Cole. As I sat on my porch that Thursday evening, watching the mountains turn purple and gold in the fading sun, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Tomorrow, we'd find out what justice looked like. The crowd roared as Brenda was led away in cuffs. Dr. Keaton, pale and shaken, immediately approached Agent Ortiz. "Agent, I want to cooperate," he said. "Brenda told me the survey was legitimate. I invested money, but I didn't know it was fraud." "Sir, we'll need a full statement," Ortiz replied. The two Patriot Defense Guards, realizing they were about to be dragged into federal crimes, quickly stripped off their tactical gear and backed away. "Ma'am, we were only here for crowd control," one told the sheriff. "Gentlemen, you're not licensed for security in this county," Sheriff Delgado said. They left without argument. News crews captured Brenda's arrest live, while Evan's stream peaked at 47,000 viewers. Comments exploded with celebration and relief. Channel 9 cut to live coverage. Breaking: HOA president arrested for fraud. Neighbors who once supported Brenda came to me directly, apologizing. "Cole, I'm so sorry," Mrs. Ellison said with tears. "Brenda threatened me with fines if I didn't back her." "Mrs. Ellison, you were scared." "I understand," I replied. Former supporters voiced their anger at being deceived. Finally, I walked to the auction sign that had sparked this nightmare. "Sheriff, may I remove this from my property now?" I asked. "It's your land, Mr. Hartman," Delgado said with a smile. I pulled the wooden sign out of the earth my family had tended for 60 years. The crowd cheered as I snapped it over my knee, the crack echoing like a rifle shot. Sheriff Delgado stepped onto my porch steps, his voice ringing out over 200 gathered neighbors. "Ladies and gentlemen, I hold a federal arrest warrant," he announced. He read the charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and attempted theft of real property. As Agent Ortiz guided Brenda toward the FBI SUV, she twisted and screamed at the crowd. "This is my community. You'll regret this." But the people had turned. "You lied to all of us," Mrs. Ellison shouted. "You fined me $3,000 for my shed," yelled Mike Hahn, another neighbor. The crowd began chanting, "Lock her up." I stepped onto the porch my grandfather had built in 1967. The noise died. 200 faces turned to me. News cameras zoomed in as I held up the yellowed 1967 deed. "This land belonged to my grandfather, my father, and now me," I said. "This document predates every house in that subdivision. This fence was here before Brenda was even born. And this ranch will remain long after she's forgotten." The crowd erupted again, applause rolling like thunder. Maya Chen stepped forward to address the media. "Today, we proved property rights still matter," she declared. "No HOA, no matter how corrupt, can steal a family's land with forged papers." She gestured toward the FBI vehicle. Brenda Calhoun thought she was untouchable. She was wrong. This ranch is legally, morally, and rightfully Cole Hartman's. Sheriff Delgado then addressed the cameras. This investigation revealed systematic fraud against multiple homeowners. "If you believe you were a victim, contact our office immediately. Colorado will not tolerate white-collar crime." Agent Ortiz stepped up. "Today's arrests send a message. Using forged documents to steal property is a federal crime with serious consequences. We will prosecute." Menon, the surveyor, spoke too. "My professional reputation was stolen, along with my signature. This fake survey could have destroyed a family. Justice was served today." Takeaway: always verify surveyor credentials and demand originals before believing boundary claims. Dr. Keaton came to me, voice low. "Cole, I owe you an apology. I was deceived. I should have verified instead of trusting Brenda." He announced his resignation from the HOA board. Tessa Lowell, the secretary who blew the whistle, spoke with tears in her eyes. "I worked for Brenda, but I couldn't stay silent. She threatened my job if I didn't go along. I saved all the emails proving this was planned. Cole Hartman deserves justice, and he got it today." As Brenda was loaded into the FBI vehicle, she screamed at me, "This isn't over. I'll appeal. You haven't won." I walked to the car. Agent Ortiz rolled the window down. "Brenda, this land has been in my family 60 years. It'll be here for 60 more. You won't be." She fell silent at last. Evan filmed as the crowd helped me rip down the auction banners, live streaming to 52,000 viewers. "Some things are not for sale," I said into his camera. "Family land is one of them." A photographer captured the moment. Me standing in front of my grandfather's ranch house, flag flying, cattle grazing behind the original fence. The caption: "Colorado rancher defeats HOA land grab." That image became a symbol of property rights across the internet. 1 month later, the legal aftermath was swift. Brenda pleaded guilty to federal fraud and was sentenced to 3 years in prison plus $500,000 restitution. Dr. Keaton got probation and a $50,000 fine. Tessa was granted immunity for cooperating. The FBI found Brenda had defrauded 17 other homeowners. Maplewood Heights held emergency elections. Denise Harper became president and issued a formal apology to me. The new board rewrote covenants, fired the corrupt management firm, and created a transparent complaint system. Menon won a $750,000 judgment for identity theft and defamation. Brenda was permanently banned from real estate. 6 months later, I hosted the first annual Property Rights Victory Festival on my ranch. Over 500 people came, live music, barbecue, speeches about freedom. We raised $47,000 for a defense fund to help others fight HOA abuse, the exact amount Brenda claimed I owed. "This land brought us together," I told the crowd. "Sometimes it takes a crisis to remind us what matters." Evan's YouTube series on the case hit 2.7 million views, making HOA Brenda vs. Colorado Rancher an online sensation. He launched a new channel, Know Your Property Rights, now used in law schools as a fraud case study. Mrs. Ellison brings me apple pie every Sunday, and Mike Hahn helps mend fences. Former Brenda supporters now volunteer for ranch upkeep. My daughter Nora wrote her senior project on property rights. My dad taught me that standing up for what's right isn't easy, but it's worth it. I framed the 1967 deed and hung it beside a photo of my grandfather building the fence. His legacy lives on. Our case, Hartman vs. Maplewood Heights, is now cited in legislation and taught in law schools. Maya speaks at national conferences, and federal sentencing now carries stiffer penalties for property fraud. Every evening, I sit on my porch watching the sun paint the mountains. My cattle graze peacefully. The fence remains exactly where my grandfather built it. This was never about me versus them, I told Evan's camera one last time. It was about right versus wrong, about protecting family and land. Property rights matter because families matter, and some things are worth fighting for. As the video ended, I walked the fence line, running my hand along cedar posts weathered by 60 winters. The land would pass to Nora, then her children, safe from corruption. The sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky with victory. Some victories are worth the fight.